Right, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to our webinar. Put my teeth in webinar this afternoon. My name is Brad Garland, Sales Director here at Applaud, and today we'll be talking about empowering the front line. So, discussing the value of the Gen AI assistant on mobile to empower and connect frontline workers and supercharge HR service delivery. So before we get into it, just to go through a couple of quick housekeeping rules. Please do stay on mute. I think we've actually muted everyone, so we won't hear you if you do ask any questions, but please do feel free to put those into the chat. We'll be sharing a copy of the recording after the session today as well. So if anyone interested in any of the slides or content, you'll get a copy of that afterwards. So as I say, my name is Brad Garland, Sales Director here at Applaud, and I'm joined by our co-founder and CTO, Duncan Casewell. Over to you, Duncan, just to say a quick hello.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us today. Excited to be talking about Frontline, one of our favorite topics, Frontline and AI, perhaps the most awesome combo of things to talk about at the moment, right, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on trend for the 2024 market as it stands. So let's jump into it. Maybe start by taking a look at the kind of high level challenges that an AI assistant is addressing today. So employees often get frustrated when they can't find information that they need or get instant answers to their questions. And for frontline workers, that problem's pretty much exacerbated a bit further than, say, clerical or white collar workers due to a lack of system access. We typically see that white collar workers have access to more tools than those in the front line. But of course, it's not just the employees that have challenges here. When they can't find the answers to the questions that they need, it tends to lead to an increased volume of inquiries and tickets coming into the HR team, which are a massive drain on highly skilled HR teams and managers, of course. So no one spends many years doing CIPD or other training and upskilling just to deal with minor inquiries. They want to be focusing on those more important tasks, improving processes, implementing new solutions, or other strategic projects. And that's really what Applaud is here to help with. So we are exclusively for HR service delivery. It's not a secondary focus for us. It's all we do, all we focus on. Every penny of our R&D spend is spent on delivering better, more connected HR services for our customers and their people. And Gartner predict that by 2025, 70% of organizations with more than 2,500 employees will have actually invested in an IHRSM solution. So what exactly is that? That's an integrated HR service management or HR service delivery solution. And that's the combination of various human resource functions and services into a singular, cohesive and unified system. And that's really what Applaud's been doing now for a very long time in the mid to enterprise sector, since 2008, in fact. And we've won a lot of awards in this area that kind of reaffirm us as a technology leader in this space. And what we've seen in the market this year in terms of priorities in technology spend is very much a move from discretionary to essential, thanks to the advancement in AI technology. So as a result, a Gen AI assistant has kind of gone from a nice to have to an absolute essential. Now, building on that kind of IHRSM market that Gartner referred to, it's the amalgamation of multiple service delivery tools in a single platform. And that's exactly what Applaud offer. It's a modularized suite that forms a fully integrated HRSD solution. And that's really underpinned by our incredible creator platform, which is one of the most powerful no-code creative solutions on the market. It allows for incredible customization and personalization, which is absolutely critical for delivering frontline services in particular. And it's designed to be owned within HR rather than the IT function that we see quite often. So what we're focusing on today, of course, is our AI assistant built using the latest Gen AI. This is a personal helper for every employee. What we mean by that is an assistant that works with different employees with different use cases, understands who they are and what they need. So if you're a manager, you might be looking for assistance with company policies and processes. So think disciplinary procedures, or understanding the performance management process, or even helping them write emails, letters, communications with their team. But from an employee's perspective, it's very different. So as well as that more traditional self-service Q&A side, you can also transact questions and requests and actions within the assistant. So how much holiday do I have, and can I book leave for a certain dates? And that's as well as finding, critical information like policies and benefits and so on. So our background is purely in HR, and that's critically important, right, for the various use cases. Tone of voice, being empathetic, and having great usability that drives adoption. We often see tools having lower engagement within frontline workers, often because they're sort of perceived as more challenging to work with, and also simplicity, because as I mentioned earlier, our solutions are designed to be owned by the HR team, not IT. And we would therefore have them real great usability so that the HR teams can truly own and deliver on their goals within our platform. So we are, and our AI assistant is very complementary to perhaps the AI ecosystem that you might be implementing today, and other AI systems might already be in place or being evaluated for different use cases and needs within the business, often led by IT. So that's it from myself. Going to hand over to Duncan now to take you through a demonstration. As I say, please feel free to pop any questions into the chat. Duncan, over to you.
Thanks, Brad. Fantastic. Good. Well, before we take a look at the AI assistant, there's really, when we're thinking about Frontline, one of the biggest challenges we have is how do we actually give access to the frontline, to our frontline population? How do we reach digital services to them? It's traditionally quite hard for a number of reasons. And we've put in a lot of work on our side to try and make that as easy as we can to reach the whole frontline population. There's 4 ways that Applaud AI can be used. It can be used via our portal for those who buy our portal product. And a good thing about that is there's no need to download an app, which is usually a very contentious point for frontline workers. It can be used directly in the mobile web browser without having to install anything. Secondly, we have a dedicated chat site, so even faster to get to, and that's for those who are not buying our portal product. Again, no need to install an app. There is an app, but it works through Safari or Chrome. It can also be embedded in existing internal sites as well. So perhaps where there's kiosks or managers of frontline populations, this is a nice way that they can access that service as well. And then finally, in the flow of work, and specifically, we can use Slack or WhatsApp, very powerful for frontline workers, or Teams as a way of being able to chat very naturally in the tools we use every day. And the adoption rates of WhatsApp is pretty high in frontline populations. So today we're going to focus on the second item, which is via the Applaud chat site. But just remember that this can all be done on mobile at any point without having to install anything. Okay, a couple other points. One of the things we don't require also is we don't require an email account to log in. So frontline users can log in using their personal phone number or work number if they have a company device. No email accounts required. That's usually another problem in terms of reaching the frontline workers, is we haven't provisioned Active Directory or Microsoft Azure accounts for everybody, so therefore they can't use anything. So we get around that obstacle. And then finally, many organizations that have large populations of frontline workers, that makes up the majority of their workforce. And so actually buying HR technology for all of those people can be very expensive. So we have pricing plans that are actually designed to be economical when it comes to reaching the whole frontline population. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the app. So I'm just going to take over screen sharing. Okay. All right, so this is our chat web console. I'm using this on desktop so that you get a nice view via the webinar, but bear in mind that this can be accessed on a mobile device as well. And here I have my Ask HR assistant available to me. So let's dive in and look at first of all, a very relevant example Frequent question, often quite complicated to get the answer to. How much annual leave do I have? Okay, so straight in there with a question. Now this is using the very latest generative AI, so it will answer the question very specifically based on the exact question that you ask, and because it knows who you are and where you're based and what your job is, the answer is completely contextualized to you. This is a tool designed for HR service delivery, so it understands the security context of what employees can access versus what managers can access. And right away, it's given me instantly, I've got 25 days for this year. I've got 17 days remaining. So very, very quick to get answers to quite complex questions. And in a frontline organization, it can be quite difficult to get that. You may have to tap someone on the shoulder or walk into a kiosk, use the limited time you have between shifts to try and get this information. It can be quite difficult. One of the things that we also do is we, in every single conversation, we use a tone of voice that you can customize. That means that every single conversation is going to be written in that tone of voice, so that the AI assistant is always talking in the same tone that reflects your organization. So it's really good for employee engagement. If I was to ask a follow-up question, we can have a very sort of conversational type interface. I could say, what about if I was to start a family? I just throw that in there and it will come back with a response to that one. Understands the history of the context, and it says, well, based on the information got available to me, based on your country, this is the information that in terms of the benefits and the pay that you can get relating to you starting a family. So you can see here, hey, Annalise, based on what we know about you, 26 weeks of paid maternity leave. And I can continue to ask more detailed follow-up questions about that. It's all written in that nice tone. I can also like the conversation, give feedback on it and say, yeah, great info on maternity leave. Or I could provide negative feedback and give it a thumbs down. And I will show you how we use that information later in terms of providing you insights that help you create better content. One of the things I didn't mention is in terms of where it's getting this information from. One of the things we've done is we've uploaded some documents. You can see these documents are PDF documents that we've been uploaded there. And we've done nothing more than simply upload these existing PDF documents. We haven't edited them or changed them. The tone of voice and the language in those documents is a bit formal, a bit legal-esque, a bit difficult to digest. And it's read all of that and cut through all of that. The responses it's given me are not copy and paste. It's reworded them completely based on the tone of voice and its understanding. It will even correct spelling errors or grammar errors that may be in the source information in terms of providing me that information. And we can use that to connect to other existing knowledge sources that might be on SharePoint or in another knowledge portal or somewhere else. So we can connect to existing sources, pull those in and answer information about that. Also, because it's very important to get the safeguarding right, we're dealing with sensitive information here. You see it's got access to employee records and knowledge content. We put a lot of safeguarding controls in here to make it safe, to limit the potential impact of damage. So if I was to say something like I hear, Bitcoin is a better investment than the stock market, do you think? Or ask it sort of ways in which I might spend my pension or whatever. It says, talks about investing in cryptocurrency or other financial markets outside the scope of my role as a HR assistant. If you want that, probably best to go and pay for professional advice, but it does talk a little bit about the company's 401k plan, pension scheme, and some of the other work-related benefits. So very much focuses the conversation back to work. And there's a lot of safeguards there in terms of preventing damage, bullying, harassment, that kind of thing. It's also can talk in multiple languages too. So if I was to try and write this Spanish, what benefits can I get? I haven't changed my language or done anything else in here. just naturally, it's multilingual, and I'm asking a question about benefits, and it's coming straight back and saying, here's some information about your benefits as a HR business partner within our organization. Okay. What I also have is I have a job spec for a frontline worker. So I'm swapping hats slightly to a manager now. And now I'm going through here and I've got a widget assembly technician for wemakewidgets.com, which is not the real organization. And I'm actually going to use our bias buster that I've got up here. And the conversation starters are there to help you give examples about how this could be used for job description, for feedback, inclusivity. I'm going to say, tell me about a job description. And it says, okay, great. Just paste in what you'd like. So I'm going to paste in that job description we've got there. And this bias buster is designed to spot inclusivity or bias potential issues. And you can see that this job spec here has got an inclusivity rating of 6 out of 10. When we look at the details of this, it's got potential gender bias, using phrases like hardworking, strong work ethic, reinforcing stereotypes. There's some bias around ableism. So it's talking about standing for long periods of time, lifting heavy items, which might exclude certain individuals. And it's talking about age bias as well. The emphasis on fast-paced, physically demanding environment could discourage certain candidates from applying. And so it's talking about ways that you could solve that and suggestions for improving it. So I could use this for a job spec or a performance review comment or for a sensitive email. This is very helpful for managers of frontline worker populations where they're really stuck for time, but want to make sure that they get things right without having to spend hours drafting information. Also for managers, the same Slack capability, so same chat capability can also be used inside Slack or Teams. Again, great for frontline managers, where we can see here that Annalise, I've been asking conversations about my 401k contribution. How do I backfill a position in Workday? How do I become a better manager? How do I, what are smart goals? So you can see here that I think I've sort of a real good dialogue inside the flow of work. And wherever I'm chatting, whether I'm chatting inside Slack or through WhatsApp or through our web console here, all of those conversations are audited. So you can see here that I can look at here's the bias buster conversation I've just had. Here's the annual leave conversation. I can go back over my previous conversations that I've had and access those at any point. So all of the conversations are audited all of the time, so that I can go back into those conversations, resume them, copy information, whatever. We also, from a safeguarding point of view, provide this information to the right authorized HR staff as well, so that HR can go in and spot check individual conversations to make sure that they're sort of on track, look for any issues, and to help try and improve the quality. But more than that, we also provide some really useful analytics around how people are interacting, what conversations they're having with the AI assistant. We can see here we've got sort of a number of conversations, 310 conversations that happened. We've got the sentiment of those conversations, so anything above 0 is positive. We've also got how much money has been saved in US dollars there as well. So it makes an estimation about how much time this saves from a HR efficiency and from an employee frontline worker perspective in terms of being able to use this service, where it effectively deflects repetitive inquiries to the help desk. You can see the feedback. What's also really helpful, though, is it will listen to the conversations and topics that people are talking about, and it will automatically group those topics without you having to do anything, and put them into the most effective and least effective. So you can see at a high, broad, aggregate level what people are talking about, what's working. So people are very happy about pregnancy, very happy about photography, a little less happy about being depressed, for example. And we can start to drill into the details of these. We can also see actually that there's some poor feedback around leave. One person saying it's untrue, one person saying it's unhelpful. And we can go into the detail of that, and it will give us snippets of the conversation. where we can start to see, we can start to sort of drill down into it in further information and understand why it's not useful. Maybe, and usually, maybe the source content we pulled in isn't very clear, or maybe there's gaps in that source content. And that's where we can use this to feed back in to the content you've created to always continually improve that content and continually make that tier 0 better. But what we usually find is that the starting point of content from HR is usually absolutely fantastic. It's actually usually really good. HR worry a lot about things being incorrect or a little bit out of date or there being gaps. But generally speaking, the knowledge content from HR is really good as is. Not perfect, of course, but really good. And it's a really solid starting point to be able to load all of that content in. We have some tools to analyze gaps in content before you even push this out. And then roll out the service and use these analytics to continually make that experience better and better. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover from a frontline worker point of view. Okay, great.
No problem. So we've got a few questions in the chat that we can we can run through. Just take a look at the first one. So question 1, happy to field this. So how would you suggest integrating a digital HR platform into an organization with a predominantly field-based workforce? How can we make employees and managers feel more comfortable using that? So I think the first point to make there is to make sure that you're prioritizing the critical services. What are the things that frontline workers use the most, are asking for the most, and will find the most useful? Potentially, you could look at it from a slightly different perspective of spending the most time on that isn't necessarily the best use of time. So that would be the first thing. The second is engagement. So not only having a easy to use, simple to access solution, but thinking about potentially different languages, for example. So in a frontline workforce, that's where we tend to see the largest concentration of the sheer volume of languages. So our assistant is able to engage them in their natural language, in their mother tongue, if you will, regardless of where the source data, what language the source data is in. So it's able to do that translation. And the third and most important piece is around that change management. So creating excitement, education, explaining clearly why a solution is being put in place, addressing any potential fears. Obviously, AI is kind of new. Not everyone is well versed in it. There is going to naturally be some sort of fear and hesitation amongst the employee base. So those are the top 3 things that we would recommend addressing. Second question, which I'll hand over to yourself, Duncan. What metrics or KPIs should we track to measure the success and impact of implementing a mobile assistant for our frontline workforce?
That's an excellent question. And well, the good thing about this is it is quite quantifiable. You can see there that we talked about cost savings, specifically in terms of efficiency. So measuring the amount of time saved and the HR efficiency is a very clear KPIs. But I think for many, it's also there's the less quantifiable metric of employee experience that we're providing. And actually, whilst the numbers are really, really compelling, you know, it can literally save days, weeks of time very, very fast. Actually, what this really does is it provides people with a much better employee experience, because employees are able to get access to quite complex questions really fast, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't have to walk into an office, tap someone on the shoulder who has to go and send an email to somebody, who has to wait for that to come back, who has to wait 2 days later, find it's wrong, and then go through that whole process again. You know, it's an instant tier 0. And so that experience of being able to get those answers fast takes away so much frustration and really makes the employer look fantastic and modern. So I think, you know, the quantifiable parts of this are very compelling, but also the qualitative aspects are also really super important, especially for our frontline populations.
That's right. Thanks, Duncan. One more question. How does the mobile AI assistant ensure data security and privacy, especially when handling sensitive employee information on a mobile device?
Well, that's a good question. I also see another one there talking about what does the mobile UX actually look like as well. So how foolish of me not to show that. Let me do that very fast while we're here. I've just collapsed my mobile browser down so that you can see that same conversation that I had earlier. And this is the sort of how it looks in mobile. So you can see it sort of reacts perfectly in mobile. I've got my different conversations there. I've got my history down there. And on mobile, of course, I can do things like use my keyboard to use my voice to ask questions. So I don't even have to type things as well. So a really compelling mobile browser web experience there. In terms of the data privacy parts of that, so Applaud is a platform designed for HR service delivery. It's all we do, and so therefore the AI assistant completely understands your security context. We don't store personal information on the device. It's all stored encrypted and safe, and there's lots of information security parts around that. Applaud works with mid to enterprise organizations who sort of demand the highest in terms of data privacy and protection. So there's a lot in our platform to really protect sensitive data. But it also understands the unique security context of every individual. So it knows that a manager can see records of their direct reports. It knows that an employee can see their own record. It knows that HR can see a much broader set of records. So it really has that context and is able to bring that context to the AI assistant, but with absolute assurity that it's impossible for the AI assistant to ever reveal information that the underlying security doesn't give access to. And our AI is never used to train future models either. So there's no risk of any information that's put in there to be revealed publicly or externally.
Brilliant. That is the last question, and we are bang on the half-hour mark. So beautifully timed. Thank you, everyone, again for attending, and for those viewing the recording afterwards, thank you for taking the time out to watch back. We've been Brad Garland and Duncan Casemore, and look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar in September. Thanks, everyone.